like to welcome all you guys here. Sorry I was a little late. There was some traffic issues from that. I don't know if y'all came that way. But we're all here now. So if y'all would have a seat. This is Richard Stowe, by the way. Yes, and he's also our keynote speaker. He's a fabulous guy, which you will find out shortly.
I'm curious to see how this turns out.
Yeah, how, okay, did y'all work from the back side as well?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Yeah.
From the back side as well. Well, they're printing that.
Yeah.
It just gives different.
The colors will bleed.
It gives a bleed more if you're using a pencil. It creates that dust which sits on the print surface, where typically it would fall off.
When you go that way, so the lines will be, the one line's going to show up?
Yeah,
Is that?
that's what I'll do.
Where do you work? Where's your studio?
I own and operate North Midtown Arts Center, that's Avenue, and have my print studio, Lotus Editions there.
Are you close to Pearl River Stained Glass?
Right across the street.
Okay, yeah, no, Janice Jordan works over there.
Yeah.
Andy, I probably would. Do you need us? No, I just want. Okay.
So this is a clear silkscreen medium.
We'll put you to work.
It's just a clear acrylic base,
Okay.
But
it's made for screen printing. It's a screen printing. Now you could use, like Liquitex makes a clear base. You could use, anything that's that consistency will work with screen printing. Yeah.
Hey, bus? You got a bus? Flying, got a bus, I think.
What time is it? How?
It is 11:05.
It's 11.
They've gone to get the lunches, so. Yeah, we're doing this until lunchtime. So.
We're okay till lunch gets back, yeah.
I think the architecture guy starts at 12:45. Are we is it a walking tour or is it a? We're on a bus and then we're gonna pop off and do things.
I'm seeing 4 screens there and 3 over there left.
We're getting close. I had no idea. I'm glad we had 4 hours.
I don't know who all's on this. I just hold down. The way that's working.
We got moose on this one. So I need to lift that up. There we go.
I bought some stuff in there.
How'd you get the line so straight? That's pretty good.
I'm good.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Are you his number one?
Evidently, nobody else wants to do paper, so I'm the paper girl.
Squeegee is the color road.
Paper lady, paper lady.
It's kind of Morris Lewis-y, but I'm gonna wear it out. It's better than being in the bag.
That's right. I have been under the bag lady.
Me too.
I might have to put some weight on there. Stephanie's too little. Here, let me put some weight. Stephanie's too long.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Those are great.
Oh, beautiful.
And welcome to Todd Sanders.
Thank you all very much. Oh, hey, you can hear me. Good deal. All right, well, we are going to get started now. And we're going to go down Court Street and go to the King Edward, as it's known now, King Edward Hotel. And going to actually walk through the lobby and then come out and kind of talk about that part of town as we're over there. But I always like to, anytime I give a tour, and I give a lot of walking tours, which is a little easier than a bus tour because you can stop and point and all of that. So you have to do the best you can with the windows. But fortunately, as we get started, there's not a whole lot to see, but I just want to kind of set the stage. I don't know how much you know about the city of Jackson or why it's where it is, but I think it's helpful to understand. Jackson is located where it is for politics. I'm sure that may not be a surprise since it's still the state capital and has been since 1821. Prior to that, the state capital had been in Washington, and then Natchez, and then Washington, Mississippi, by the way, which is 6 miles from Natchez. But the move to Jackson, which was near the geographical center of the state at the time, reflects a trend throughout the older East Coast states to move their state capital away from the corrupt influences of the wealthy water areas, the coastal areas, the rivers, and into the center of the state where it'd be equally convenient, theoretically, for more people, for the small farmers and people who live in the inner part of the state. So that's what created Jackson. So what they did was they took a checkerboard, and if you look at it, you get your white and black squares. The suggestion was that you build on the black squares and leave the white squares as open parks. And that was the original layout of Jackson for about 10 years. Till they sold off all of the undeveloped lots to help build the new State House, which is now the old Capitol. So that was the original plan. Now the streets are named very interestingly. I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but Court Street that we're on is a very wide street. It was designed to have a courthouse at the end, which was never built. Capitol Street, same width, has the Capitol building. College Street was to have a school or college at its end. So there would be 3 major public buildings along the ridge looking down those wide streets. The only one that was built that survives is the Capitol building. The college was, there was a building there that served as a college, quote unquote, school before the war, but it didn't last for very long. Now it's vacant, and there was never a courthouse built until recently when the federal court built that thing on Court Street. And then this hotel they built in the 1920s to replace their earlier ones. It's the Edwards Hotel. Originally Edwards House became the King Edward Hotel after it was bought out of the family in the 1950s, modernized in 1957, closed in 1967, and opened again in 2009 after being vacant for 40-something years. This part of town developed around the railroad, that part of town around the old Capitol, and they slowly grew towards each other. And Capitol Street, of course, is that wide street that connects the two. It's interesting, Jackson began in 1820-21, so it's pretty old, but there's not a lot of antebellum architecture in Jackson remaining. How many people have heard it's because those nasty Yankees burned our town? Raise your hand. No! They burned some things for military purposes. The Confederates burned as much or more than the Union soldiers for the same reason, for military purposes. But most of what was here before the war, we built on top of in the late 19th and early 20th century as that little town of Jackson grew on top of itself and expanded out in every direction. So the reason there's not a lot of antebellum houses or commercial buildings, we built on top of what was here, and secondly, it was a very small village. There wasn't a whole lot to start with.
We're gonna get a picture, Todd. We're all standing here. Or something out there.
52. Well, first of all, the eagle is 8 feet tall and 15 feet wide. There we go. Wow. It is copper, and it's covered with gold leaf. Now, in answer to your question about the direction that the eagle is facing and what that means, it does face south. Reason being, at the time in 1903, when the building was completed, and it was built between 1901 and 1903 in 28 months, by the way. And at that time, Jackson, the city of Jackson, most of it was south of here. So the governor's mansion and the old capitol were south of this location. So they wanted to base all that part of Jackson, and that is why. You know, of course, hear what you were thinking, and so I had to put that to rest.
But it is facing south.
He does face south.
Instead of facing
Did he get turned around to Katrina?
No, did not.
I wondered about that.
Katrina did not hurt our building. We were so fortunate. Now, like a few months later, into the next year, the eagle kind of moved, tilted a bit, and one of the springs had broken, and they think possibly it could have been, loosened before during Katrina, possibly, but the springs are made for it to kind of move, and that's what they're made for. So they did their job.
I hate to interrupt, but I'm going to anyway. Because you mentioned Katrina. The old Capitol's roof off in Katrina, and that pushed for restoration. And it's amazing that the new really didn't get any damage. The old Capitol had the roof torn up.
My name's Kathy Broom, and I'd like to welcome you to your Mississippi State Capitol. And those of you if any of you are not from Mississippi, welcome to the Mississippi State Capitol. As mentioned, it was built in just 28 months between 1901 and 1903. The type of architecture, which that's where Todd is the expert, is Beaux-Arts. And of course, you've already been noticing all the beautiful detail, the grand entrances, the grand entrances, staircases, and as you go inside, you'll see even more. It's just so much to see and take in. So you need to, when the building was built, it was to house all three branches of government. Now, the only branch that remains here is the legislative branch. The governor's office, the executive branch, is across the street, the full-time office of the governor, and then the judicial branch, it is also across the street, the Supreme Court. So, every state and every U.S. territory received a copy of this Liberty Bell as a thank you for their participation in World War II, specifically selling war bonds. And then every state could choose where to place their Liberty Bell. And thankfully, Mississippi chose the front of the Capitol. Now, the only thing that's different, it doesn't have a crack in it. Exactly. You got that. Next, we're seeing the back of it, but it's a monument to honor the women of the Confederacy. Basically, it's to honor all of the women, those who are on the home front, just like with all wars. Those who are on the home front, honoring them. And of course, at that time, that was the women. Now things are a little different, aren't they? You have a little bit of both. But the sculptress was Belle Kinney. She was from Nashville, Tennessee. And it was cast by Tiffany Studios in New York. We had the pediment, of course, the triangular area, the pediment with all the figures in it, representing the different aspects of Mississippi industry and history and so forth. The center lady, we call her Lady Mississippi. And it's all, of course, in bas relief, except for two figures are in low relief. One is, if you count over three to the left of Lady Mississippi, you should see one of the low relief figures, which is supposed to be a Native American. You go to the lady again in the middle, and you count over three to your right, you should see another low relief figure, which should be a child representing the future.
What's that clicking noise?